Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Hopefully everyone can hear me, and thanks for waiting for a few minutes there. Always takes a couple of minutes for people to join in as they're finishing off things that they're doing. So for those that came along for the webinar last week, we've got Kurt along again this time. So we're going to be talking about things that businesses, builders, trades can do right now in their business to help them create more opportunity and obviously get their business in order. Last week, we kind of went through about the winning more work. We're focusing more on things you can do in your business right now once you've won the work. I'll be taking you through Buildxact a little bit, show you some of the things that we can offer and how that can help you run your business more efficiently. Kurt will be talking first. Same thing as we did last week. We're going to do all the questions at the very end. There's a little chat box just at the bottom there, so you can hop in at any point in time and add your questions in. We will get to those at the end. There'll be plenty of time, so don't worry. But if you do have questions as you're going through, pop them down so you don't forget them for later on, and then we'll be covering them off as we go along. But with that being said, I think Kurt's got his video on now, so I'll just throw over to Kurt, and yeah, he'll give you a bit of a run through, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Julian, and welcome everyone. I want to start by thanking Buildxact, Marina and Julian for hosting this webinar. It's a great opportunity to share some really valuable information during this unique scenario that we're in, these unique times. So I'm going to be talking today about the biggest future growth opportunity in the building industry right now. And really, guys, it is big. It's huge. Steve Jobs famously said you can only connect the dots going backwards. And let me just get my screen up here, guys. 1 second. Okay. All right. Is my video on? Can you guys see me and hear me okay?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, great. I'm just going to get the chat box open as well, just in case anything comes through. Julian, if you can let me know if any urgent questions come through while I'm going. But try to save them for the end, guys. If you could, like Julian said, just write them down and we'll go through them. But Steve Jobs famously said you can only connect the dots going backwards. And, you know, there are things that you can do now, ordinarily in a normal environment that'll benefit you later. But there certainly in this climate, there are things that you can do now that'll really put you in a league of your own and have you dominating the particular space that you want to. So I want to share specific strategies and ideas that you can implement that'll put you in that 1%, the top 1% of builders. And I'm saying that because I've worked with those guys. I do work with them and I know exactly what it takes. So again, I want to get through as much as I can. So why now? Why is there a big opportunity now? And if you do decide to follow through and take action on putting these structures in place, that it'll benefit you. Well, most builders and their clients, so you and your clients are, maybe not most, but a lot, are lost at sea. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a bit of fear and anxiety. And the reality is in business, success in business is all about creating value. Right? If you think of all the famous brands out there, what they've done well is they've been able to create value. And the opportunity to do that, to create value, is endless and limited only to your imagination. So there's always opportunity. People tell you there's not enough opportunity. You know, they just don't understand this concept of creating value. Now, when there is a situation like now, where there is a bit of chaos and uncertainty and there's disruption in the industry, that is the best possible time to create value, to provide a solution to people. And if you can back that solution up and you can create that value with a solid structure and systems behind it as well, then you'll be able to create even more value, deliver even more value. So that's the opportunity, guys, and that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about some specific strategies you can put in place. A good example of that is something we spoke about last time. So we had a webinar last week and we spoke about beating the bottleneck. So a lot of builders that I'm working with are talking about how inevitably all the people that are sitting on their hands and waiting are going to rush forward, and there's going to be a bottleneck. There are going to be delays in people getting their preliminaries, their design, their engineering, getting their jobs through council, and there's going to be a shortage of trades. There's going to be price hikes. So anyone who gets their preliminaries done now is going to put themselves at the front of the queue. And there's advantages to doing that, as well as if they proceed with work. If people proceed now, they get the pick of the trades, they can get work done quicker, they've extended trading hours, all that sort of thing. So those are the opportunities, guys. So I want to go through, I thought through the best opportunities for you now, and I want to sort of unpack them together. But I'd like to find out just quickly what your guys' biggest challenge is right now. I did ask this question last week, and it was great to get feedback from the live participants. So those of you that are on the call now, if you could just type in the chat box, What is your biggest challenge, the number one challenge for you right now? I'll just wait for you guys to type in. Obviously, my goal is to make this presentation as relevant as possible. So I want to hear what's going on. So we got, hey, Rebecca, good to see you there. Getting enough sleep and managing homeschool, work and personal. I think that's relevant to probably everyone. The homeschooling thing is testing everyone's patience, no doubt. Finding balance, Nathan, yes. Big challenge, man. And look, what I'm going to recommend is that you work really hard on implementing the systems that I talk about. And that's going to mean that maybe there isn't going to be a lot of balance for the short term. But again, it's going to pay big dividends down the track. So hang in there, guys. I mean, as we can see, we're coming out of the situation, hopefully fairly soon. Robert, great to have you on the call, right, mate? My biggest challenge is getting people's budgets before I meet them to see. Okay, getting people's budgets, not uncommon, all right? Lack of confidence, difficulty of client obtaining finance, yes. Finance challenges, not uncommon at the moment. We'll talk about that as well, what you can do to help offset that. Getting customers to take the leap and sign contracts, yes. Okay, so that's having that conversation about beating the bottleneck. If people wait now, that could potentially end up experiencing huge delays later and massive price hikes. So choosing to wait and not proceed with the job is a decision. People need to make an informed decision. So there's a great article that Rebecca wrote called "The Best Time to Build is Now the Best Time to Build," and then laying out all the reasons why it is potentially is the best time. Not for everyone, but for certain people it will be. Robert Bray, if it's a waste of time, yes. If you don't have their budget, it could be a waste of time. Winning jobs, finding balance, okay, locking working for next year, all of the above. So it sounds like a lot of sales and marketing, very similar to last year, guys. I'm going to keep moving, just conscious of time. For those of you that don't know me, quick introduction. Kurt Hegetschweiler. I've been working with builders since 2004. I'm a building industry specific business coach. 90% of my builders work in the resi market. I've written a couple of books. The most recent was in late 2018. That book called $1 Million Build, you can see it on screen now. It's available on Amazon. You can purchase it on Kindle in paperback as well as on Audible as well. And it was reviewed by the National Homeowners Association in America last year, and it was showcased at the International Builders Show in January in Las Vegas this year. So I'm saying that not to impress you, but just to let you know that I put my heart and soul into that book. I'm a big believer in sharing knowledge. I don't want to tell you what to do, but not how to do it so that you come to me and use my services. I'd rather just share everything I know. And then, you know, if someone wants to fast track results and work with me, great. But because you guys attended the webinar, even if you listen to the recording, I'm going to send you a link, or Marina's going to send you a link to a free copy of the audio version of my book. So I'd love you to have a look at that. There's a link in there with about 40 documents and videos that'll help you guys along. So have a look at that. And if you've got any specific bits of information that you guys want, please just email info@builderscoach.com.au. So anything I'll talk about now, if you've got a question later that pops up after the webinar, just shoot me an email. Happy to have a chat, and I love helping people. That's why I do what I do. All right, so here are the 10 areas, guys, most relevant to a business. Regardless of whether you're a sole trader or you've got 50 carpenters working for you, you're going to need to cover off these areas, and you're either doing them consciously and proactively, or you choosing to ignore them at your peril. So there's strategy. If you start with strategy, that's the direction that you take your business in. What I'd encourage you guys to do, I'm not going to spend too much time on this now, but if you watch the recording later, go through and give yourself a score from 0 to 10 for each of these. So 10 being, you know, great, fantastic, and 0 being pathetic. So do you have a strategy for your business? Overriding strategy being you have an area of specialty, maybe it's custom homes, custom luxury homes, you know, small, difficult access type blocks, whatever it is for you, even commercial fit outs. Is there an area that you specialize in and are becoming better at? So that concept of an inch wide, a mile deep. Then there's strategy for every other part of the business, for your marketing, for building up working capital, for sales, for your conversions, which some of you mentioned in the chat box there, for delivering work on time to budget to standard, your administration, the paper flow in your office, your financials, not only your financial controls, understanding things like your break-even point and individual job reports, but what are you doing to make sure your business is profitable? So achieving a net profit, and also that your cash flow is coming in before it goes out. Your systems, your strategy for developing your systems. And today I'm going to be talking about the specific systems that'll give you the biggest upside return. All right. And if you work on them now and you do that well, you will reap significant benefits down the track, even more so than normally because of the current climate. The team that you have, both in the office and on site, including your subbies and also your web developer, your bookkeeper, lawyer, business coach. Do you have a dream team? If you have to fire them all, would you re-employ them tomorrow morning? Your leadership, so that's you and the leaders that you're building within your team. Your business will never outperform your level of leadership, right? So you really need to have a game plan for all of these. Now, some of you would have gone into this COVID situation without a strong strategy and you've needed to pivot. My recommendation, you would have heard that word bandied around a bit, when it comes to pivoting, what you really need to do is knuckle down on the sales and marketing systems, which there are systems that you can implement, which we'll touch on today, for your sales and marketing, and they're really, really important. In fact, marketing is the holy grail, but then other parts of your business as well. There's things that you can do that'll really leverage your business and your business results. So we're going to touch on those. So again, go through the recording if you need to. Be mindful as well that every part of this has a mindset component. A big part of leadership is mindset. It's about decision making. And really today, I'm not going to be able to get you to make significant change other than make a decision. So if I can get you to decide to make some changes, some positive changes in the parts of your business in this wheel that are most relevant to you, then I've done my job. Even if it's one thing, if you just act on one thing, and I'll show you a great example in a sec of what I'm talking about there, but whatever your results are now for your business and even personally with your relationships, they're a lagging indicator of your habits. And this is why your business will never outperform your leadership, because it all comes back to you. It's the decisions that you make, the decisions you make to improve yourself as a leader, your business systems, your relationships with the right people, that the conversations you have, the phone calls you make, those all have implications. So it's about looking at your habits and then seeing how they tie in with the results. 30 days to change a habit or break a habit. You guys are probably familiar with that. So it does take time. If you wanted to stop smoking, for example, some of you have done that. I used to be a smoker years ago. It was a tough one to break. It took me 7 goes. Some of you have stopped drinking alcohol. Those are tough habits to break, or exercising more, eating well. Eating, dietary changes is a big one. But it's the same for your business. But if you can make that decision, it all starts with a decision with conviction, and then you start heading on that trajectory. Okay, then things start to change. From a leadership perspective, it's really important that you change your approach as well. So my surname, if you look at it, Hegetschweiler, it's from Switzerland. My dad's from Switzerland. And when I was a kid, I spent a couple of years there. And I was about 5. My grandparents took me to see the Matterhorn. And that's the mountain you're looking at there on that image. Now, something interesting I only learned recently about the Matterhorn is that a lot of people died trying to climb the north face of the Matterhorn. Apparently, up until about the mid-80s, 1983, around about there, 500 people had died trying to climb this mountain, trying to climb the north face. A lot of Brits apparently died falling from that mountain or died on the mountain. And it was almost like a badge of honor. Guys wanted to climb it, and if they didn't make it, their family sort of wore it as a badge of honor. Until one day, some guy explored the other end of the mountain and found that you could pretty much walk up the mountain. You could hike up the other end and get to the top without having to climb the north face. And what I see in the building industry, a lot of guys are using old school approaches. They're using old school systems and ways of doing business that are completely outdated. And it's like they're trying to climb the north face. And there are a lot of builders out there that are suffering unnecessarily. And that's why I feel like an obligation to get a lot of the information that I teach out there, to share it with people. Because, and I've had people say to me, oh yeah, you're all about the money, you know, you book $1 million bills, it's about money. It's not. It's about getting the message out there to try and help people and realize that it's exciting times to be in business. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom and it's tough right now, but the opportunities are huge, and there's never been a better time to be in business. There's never been better sharing of quality information and access to systems and technology to really take control of your business, be proactive, enjoy levels of efficiency and profitability that give you better lifestyle choice. All right, so there's plenty of examples out there. Before you do anything, as a leader of your business, you really need to set goals. You need to decide what you want. This is so important, guys. That whole cliche, if you don't know where you're going, how you're going to get there. Right? I always ask a question of builders when I start working with them. I ask them, if we had a magic wand and you could create the perfect business, what would it look like? And I'm surprised at how many have no real idea, because they haven't sat down and thought through, what is it that I want? What do I really want? What would an ideal business look like? And there's a whole lot of reasons for why that happens, but I want to encourage you today to ask yourself, what do you really want? what would the ideal business look like for you? And if you're struggling to come up with an answer, look at some examples. Look at people that you know or know of that are successful. There's plenty of influencers out there. These guys that have businesses where they work with blue chip clients, A-grade clients. They get to pick and choose. It's negotiated tenders. They don't speak to the clients aren't speaking to any other builders. And these guys do developments as well alongside good quality client work that's profitable and has good cash flow. And that's a great setup. I know most of you guys either do your own speckies or you want to do them or do more of them. So that's a great model just to start with, start toying with that. All right. So start with where you want to go, know which direction you want to go in. And then based on that, everything else will flow. And we'll talk about some of the specific systems and strategies you can put in place. We follow what's called the 80-20 principle. So 80% of your results come from 20% of your activities, or 80% of your results from 20% of your systems and processes, 80% of your complaints from 20% of your clients, 80% of your problems from 20% of your people. So this is just a fact of life. This principle exists. It's been looked at for a long time. And that's what I'm going to be using today to get through some valuable ideas and strategies in a very short space of time. I really want to share within that 20%. The interesting thing is, and I spoke about this in the last webinar as well, if you look at the 20% of the 20%, right, there's a 64-4 scenario where 4% of the things that you do give you 64% of your results. And we call those game changers. And if you only put these things in place, guys, I can tell you now, I've worked with, it's over 1,000 builders now one-on-one, right, since 2004. And I've worked with pretty much every franchise builder out there as well. So they have some good systems and processes, but they also have gaps. I mean, I find it fascinating that a lot of their franchisees come to me for help to work with them. So if you implement the strategies that I'm going to talk about today, if you implement them well and use them well, because you do need to use them as well, you would put yourself, when I say that 1%, you'll be as good, if not better, than any other franchise builders out there in terms of your ability to deliver consistently and also achieve results. Right, so if there's ever a time to knuckle down and get your business systems in place, now is the time, guys. I can't stress that hard enough. I know it's difficult, but that's a leadership thing. You know, it's when things are difficult, that's when people step up. It's when times are tough, that's when you step up. And if you do it, again, that's the opportunity, because you will, and you won't see immediate results now, but down the track, and I know this because I see it time and time again, 12 months, 18 months from now, you look back and you go, this is the best thing that ever happened to me, all right? So before you dive into making any changes to your business systems and development, you need to ask yourself a mindset question, and that is, what is your attitude around business development? How do you view business development? I know for at least 90% of builders out there, they don't want to be business people. They don't want to be businessmen. It's like a dirty word. And sales and marketing are certainly a dirty word. So you really need to be successful in business, understand, this is full disclosure before the fact, just being straight up with you, that you're going to need to embark on another whole apprenticeship. So you have to learn how to build. You got your Cert 4, you got your license. But if you want to understand how to run a successful business and make money, you're going to have to learn about business. And that's another whole journey that you have to embark on. And you need to embrace it. And you need to be consistently learning, improving yourself as a leader in your systems all the time. Yeah, Josh is just saying balance is hard and needing more support in the office, but feeling like there's still many holes in our processes. Yeah, so when it comes to plugging the holes, guys, just as I run through these systems, these are the holes you want to plug first. And the starting point, just know this as well, okay? This might help you with your mindset around business development. If you embrace business development, you spend 5 hours a week. That's what I get my guys to do, right? 5 hours a week working on your business. You guys understand working on versus in. If you just do that consistently, you don't have to take on the world. Just consistently work on 5 hours a week, slow, no pause. Each hour that you spend working on your business over time is worth about $10,000 an hour. They've done the research, okay? You think about someone who's a sole trader, and another mate of his is a sole trader, and one of them starts embarking on the business development journey. Slowly over time, the guy that's working on his business over 5, 10, 15, 20 years, he ends up he'll build a business empire just by understanding how to do the numbers, the financials, the sales, the marketing, the team management, recruitment, all that sort of thing. So step one, let's get into some meat and potatoes, guys. Financials. The first thing you want to systemize in your business is your financials. So the big question is, how do you feel about your financials, your profit, your cash flow, your tax, your individual job reports, your break-even point, all that sort of thing. I know for most guys, it's a minefield. And in your defense, no one's really teaching it, right? No one's really saying to you, okay, this is how it works. And There's obviously, we could point fingers and everything else, but really, you know, all you need to do is take ownership and realize that if you don't get your financial controls in place, if you don't have adequate financial controls, you don't understand the numbers, you don't have a pricing strategy, you are never going to be successful in business. So that's why it's the first point of call. So I'm going to go through exactly what you need. You could spend a lifetime getting a finance degree. There's a lot of depth to finance. You don't need to know everything. Remember the 80-20 rule, right? The 4-64. So what we need to do, what we need to know, and I'm going to touch on the things that I find to be the biggest issues. You need to understand pricing your work and what margin you need, all right? A minimum margin, and there's a difference between markup and margin. So I'm going to work with markup. Okay, I'll tell you what the margin is. It's 20%. That is a minimum margin, and that's born out of the Home Building Compensation Fund guidelines, where the government and insurance companies looked at why builders went bankrupt. And there's more bankruptcy in this industry than any other. And they found margin to be the number one thing, amongst others, okay? So they had a parameter for margins. 13% and less is very high risk. Now, when they say high risk, not to you, the builder, to your client. The insurance companies don't want to pay out, as you know. They don't want to pay out. And obviously the government wants to reduce the amount of issues they have with home warranty and everything else. So they're really trying to protect your client, not you. So your margin, and no one's really teaching people this, needs to be at least 20% to offset the risk to your client. Right? And the 20% margin is a 25% markup. So if you cost all your costings, materials, labor, including yourself, most guys don't cost themselves in for supervision and project management, and then you put 25% on top. So if the costings were 100 grand, you put 25 on top, it's 125. The client pays 125 grand, your profit's 25,000. 25,000 as a percentage of 125 is 20%. Okay, so you probably get that. And again, watch the recording if you need to go through it. But you don't need to understand how all this works. Find someone who does. Find someone who does. Because if you don't get this right, guys, you're never going to be able to proceed. So you need to know how to price your work. Margin needs to be a minimum 20. I don't care where you are in the country and what you do. It needs to be a minimum 20. We've got guys at 38% margin, which is a 62 markup. And they're doing 1.5 mil, $4 million jobs. Okay, so I'll know what margins are achievable, what aren't. You need to have a front-end loaded payment schedule, all right? If you're using an HIA contract, you get Form 1, Form 2. Form 1, don't use. You cannot use Form 1. The lawyer at the HIA offices in Melbourne told us you cannot use Form 1 because it was created in 1983 and building practices have changed. And when we asked him, well, why are they still using an outdated form or clause in their contracts from 1983 when the building practices have changed, he said, well, we can't change it because it'll be too much of a political risk. All right, that's the feedback that came. So you figure that one out, right? I was just scratching my head as well. But you got to use Form 2. You got to have your own payment schedule that is front-end loaded and legal. You need to have adequate financial reporting. You need to have a 12-week cash flow forecast. You look at your cash flow forecast, and but above all, the margin, guys. You also need to build cash reserves. This is something that came out of the Home Building Compensation Fund guidelines. You need to have a certain amount of working capital, ideally 2% of turnover as working capital. And this guy here, his name's Michael Mikilowicz. He wrote the book, profitfirstbook.com. Just go to that website. You can get the information there. But I can explain it to you. I'll give an example of a guy that heard me explain exactly what I'm going to share with you now, and then what he did and the specific result that he got. So if you have income minus expenses equals profit, which is what you have in your profit and loss. If you try and increase your profit as much as you can, which I recommend you do, and then you take that profit and invest it in property, shares, cash, whatever, to build up residual income, passive income, which you should be doing, that will not work. That will never work, right? Income minus expenses equals profit does not work. What does work exceptionally well, and I've tested this myself and with all my builders I work with, is income minus profit equals expenses. So as money comes in, you skim some off, and then you build up cash reserves that way. All right, so ideally, every progress payment that comes in, 2% should go off to a separate bank account that you can't see. Other ways to do that, there's little apps. You guys would have heard of index funds. Warren Buffett believes in index funds. I'm not a financial advisor, by the way, but I use, there's four I'll share with you. There's Raise, R-A-I-Z. There's Bamboo. So Raise is an index fund. It just skims money off your bank account and then puts it away. Bamboo does crypto. Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I'm having some fun with it. I've got 10 grand in there and it's going nuts at the moment. Spaceship is a New Zealand, you Kiwis on the call, it's a New Zealand product. I'm on there as well. And then CBA's got one called Concept Pocket. These things just skim money off your account and it goes into index funds and it starts building up. A great way to have fun. And I can't recommend this enough. So this guy in Melbourne in May 2018 heard me say exactly what I've just shared with you now. He went away and set up a direct debit, a weekly direct debit into a separate cash account that he couldn't see. 12 months later, May 2019, he came up to me at an event. I hadn't even worked with this guy in one-on-one coaching. And he said to me, hey, I want to thank you. And I said, what for? He said, for sharing the profit first idea. I went and put $1,200 a week in direct debit, and he whipped out his phone. He showed me his bank balance, 69 grand. He said, this is phenomenal. I've never been able to save money before. It just disappears out of my trading account. And I've got 69 grand. Now get this. On the 22nd, when is it? The 22nd of on March this year, he sends me an email, and it's up to 133 grand. And this is what he said, right? He asked me not to mention his name, but he said, look, two things. Number one, I don't reckon that I would have saved a cent if I didn't do this. Okay, money has a habit of leaving my trading accounts, as you know. Number two, you have made my life so much less stressful than it would normally be now, when we are facing a challenge like not seen since the Depression and the war years, 1900s, early 1900s, okay? So he went into COVID on 22nd of March with this sort of money in his account, which he never would have had, all right? And he's increased it. It was 1,200, now it's gone up to 1,500. I would recommend you guys, or if you only do one thing from this webinar, do this now. Just set up a direct debit. If it's 500 a week, $1,000 a week, whatever you can afford, you won't miss the money, and your business is going to be forced to survive on the rest. And jump on Ray's Bamboo, Spaceship, and the ComSec one as well. I'll do all of them. Okay, it'll be the best thing you do. All right. Schedule your payments. So I mentioned before what the HRA guy said, Form 1, Form 2. You've got to use Form 2, create your own payment schedule. So that was the HRA lawyer, because I had guys in the room, this was in the room in Melbourne, saying, oh, it's not possible. You can't do it. And the lawyer came up and explained that, right? So don't shoot the messenger, guys. I'm telling you what I've heard. Now, I also heard from an MBA, the other association, their chief lawyer described your payment schedule this way. This is how they should be set up. You should collect your deposit. So I know for some of you it's 5%, other states it's 10, but you should collect a deposit, and then you should be able to use the progress payments moving forward to cash flow the job without ever having to touch the deposit, all right? That's how it should be set up. Anything different to that is like you guys trading insolvent. So you obviously understand about trading insolvent. It's illegal. You shouldn't do it. In the same way, guys, you should not be financing your jobs. You can't do it, and you cannot scale if you finance jobs. I was speaking to someone the other day about it, and I just said they just cannot do it. You cannot structure your business that way. And you can see why. This is why finance is the number one thing that you got to get your head around. If you can structure it so that you're profitable, your margins are set and consistent, and you got individual job reports to be able to gauge what the profit is on the jobs at the end of a job, and you've got positive cash flow, then you're cooking with gas. Then you can go places. In terms of sales, it's the biggest inefficiency. The number one thing we need to do in sales is ensure that you don't waste 1 minute of your time with someone who's not an ideal prospect, right? Or not a good fit. All you're trying to establish with sales is the person that fits. So my number one mission with my business is to get every builder to charge for quotes. Every builder I work with does it successfully. People thank them for it because, again, it's about adding value. It's about finding the opportunity. Most quotes are not accurate. There's an article on realestate.com, and there's plenty others out there that show and talk about how 80% of free quotes are not worth the paper they're written on. And it's not because all builders are crooks. It's because if you're doing free quotes, you're doing too many. It's not going to be accurate. They're not going to stop and shop everything out to the suppliers and the trades. So if you can educate your clients on that, on the importance of getting the numbers right early on, then they'll be happy to pay or part with lunch money to get accurate numbers. When people do a development, they're happy to do a feasibility and due diligence to make sure the numbers stack up before they proceed. So it should be the same with every job. So the key thing here, guys, is educate, educate, educate. I've got a sales process that we've set up for a franchise building company. If you want a copy, I sent it out to the people on the last webinar. I'm happy to do so. Again, just email me at info@builderscoach.com.au. And just know, guys, it's all about your process or theirs. You really need to have your process, a process, because the client will have theirs. They've got a process for how they want to select the builder, and only one of those two processes is going to win, and it needs to be yours. Otherwise, you're going to forever be in that situation when they say jump and you say how high, all right? And you don't want to be there. Know how to say no. So I've heard it again this week, and I hear it all the time. So Kurt, why would I want to have, when it comes to marketing, which is again the holy grail, why would I want to have 10 inquiries coming in a day? That's just ridiculous. It's absurd. I can't service all those inquiries. You don't want to service all those inquiries. What you need to do again is have a process for identifying the people who are the best fit for you and the solution that you provide. And when they're not a good fit, that's okay. You're not going to curl up in a ball and cry. You don't have to be rude to them. You're just going to refer them on, politely refer them on to people who are better suited to help them with the solution that they need. And that could include your competitors. We've got builders here in Sydney that refer on to their biggest competitors who are award-winning builders, but that allows them to market heavily, to turn on the taps of their marketing, get an overflow of quality inquiries coming through. They've got a sales process that deselects, cherry picks the best people, and then they refer the others on, and they don't damage their brand. Because a lot of you, I'm sure, you don't want to market heavily, or you don't market at all, and that could be a mindset thing, but you don't want to market because you're fearful of what if we get too many inquiries. And that, guys, by the way, is the best problem to have. I mean, who would not want too many inquiries? And the fact that so many people worry about that see that as a problem I find that fascinating in and of itself. Coming back to the financials and being able to project forward, I mentioned a 12-week cash flow forecast. It's really important to have a 12-week, not a 12-month, a 12-week cash flow forecast. What this is a revenue projection spreadsheet that we use based on the sales process. The sales process is so well defined and works to a very specific conversion rate. And because it works so well, you can predict what the conversion rates are going to be conservatively. And that's what the spreadsheet does. So if you've got, like in this example, 5 million in the pipeline, based on the probability of conversion at the different stages of the sales process, we know they've got 2.8 revenue in the pipeline. And if you look at their margins, 25%, which is what your margin should be. If you're working with me, it's going to be 25%. 25% of 2.8, 711. Their overheads 104 a quarter or 416 a quarter, which gives them a net profit potential of 295. Okay. So why is this important? Well, it allows you to make decisions for your business. Remember, decision making is a hallmark of leadership. If you know what's in the pipeline and you've got a 12-week cash flow forecast, you know what's on hand. As the business grows, if you've got twice in the pipeline that you've got on hand, you're going to need to restructure your team and your systems. There's going to be some expenses associated with that. And you need to know when do you hit the go button on employing that next supervisor or putting that new system in place. And this revenue projection dovetailing with a cash flow forecast allows you to do that very well. Right? So again, it's all about decision making and mitigating risk as your business grows. All right, so let's talk about marketing. Marketing, again, like I said, the holy grail. Really, you want to be marketing to the extent that if your marketing done well, it's going to put you in a position where you're dealing with negotiated tenders. All right, and the hallmark, the very first thing you need to do with your marketing, if you haven't already done so, and I touched on this earlier, is to specialize. Is to have a niche, an area of specialty. Why? Because it makes you more relevant, and relevance is really, really important in business. If you can't be first in market is one of the most powerful things you can do. That's why you've got Coke and Pepsi. Pepsi never able to catch Coke. You've got Avis and Hertz. There's plenty of those classic examples. But if you can't be first, which is tough these days, you want to be different. So you want to differentiate as much as you can, and niching allows you to do that. A great niche, by the way, is eco-friendly home. So you could do the most staple niche is renovations, extensions. And even now, people that are scared, instead of doing a full reno and spending a lot of money on a renovation, may just do a smaller kitchen bathroom reno. But that's the most staple, so it'll be there always. Within that, though, you could do, smart homes. You could renovate on, heritage homes or difficult sites or sloping blocks. Eco-friendly green homes is very popular. A lot of people are heading towards eco-friendly green homes, not because they're tree huggers, but because they don't want to pay a lot for electricity. I, for one, would love to, drive a Tesla and live in an eco-friendly home. And it's not because, I want to reduce carbon footprint. It's because I like the technology. And yes, it's nice to know in the back of your mind that happens as well. Number one marketing strategy, guys, above all, the most effective, when I say number one, the most effective marketing strategy by far, and there's plenty of builders I know, and you would know of them that that's successful, who built their entire business on networking alone, just networking, just knowing the right people. All right. So I'm talking about if you do custom homes, renos, resi work or not, even commercial stuff, architects, designers, draftees, engineers, networking. When I say the right people, 80-20 rule applies, right? So 80% of the world is mediocre. We live in a world of mediocrity. If you've got high standards, which I'm assuming you do if you're on this call, then you need to seek out the people whose values align with yours. So where are your standards? And this may have happened to you. This would have happened to you with some of your trades. You probably had trades that just don't cut it. They're not at the standard that you need them to be, and you've had to, ask them to move on. And some of you will be on this call, no doubt. You've got people working for you, and trades or employees who shouldn't be there because they don't meet the standards. And that's a leadership thing. That's where you got to toughen up and make those tough decisions. But networking is huge, and it's not only going out there and networking with architects and designers. By the way, when you network with these guys, your approach is crucial. You can't just phone them and say, hey, let's work together. You've got to approach them with what's in it for them. It's all about what's in it for them. So with the architects, my recommendation is you call them, you introduce yourself, you say, hey, we do work in the same area as you, we do custom homes. We have no intention of doing in-house design. What we would like to do is align ourselves with the right architects who we can refer to with confidence. We'd love to come and meet with you to find out more about you and your business to establish if you're a fit. Would you be open to that? I phoned 10 architects when we had a red owners business in Sydney, got 9 appointments using that approach. So you can use that you can do that with real estate agents, slightly different way to approach. But also when it comes to networking, business networking, international BNI, those groups, a lot of them now are doing all their calls on Zoom. So you can go to lots of different areas from from your office. We've got guys generate $2.5 million worth of work in 12 months through one BNI group. So those things do work. BNI is the best, by the way. And we've got guys pushing really hard with the opportunity to win work now is getting on the blow. There's no escaping hard work, guys. I would say get on the blow, find 100 architects, designers. You'll pick some low-hanging fruit. Some of them will have builders disappear, so you can get work that way. Otherwise, talk about beating the bottleneck and sign prelims and overbook the flight. We've got guys now booking in lots of prelims because they know that some of them are going to fall over due to finance. Some of you mentioned finance being an issue. So they're putting in more than they need. And then, look, if everyone gets finance and it's just miraculously everyone comes on board at once, that's a great problem to have. Again, don't stress out about it. The recruitment opportunities are going to be great and you can stagger the work. Maybe you have to tell people to wait a little bit, but if they weren't in your pipeline getting their prelims done, they'd be waiting 12, 18 months anyway because that bottleneck that's about to come. So really you want to have 10 by 10 marketing strategies. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. If you want more detail, watch last week's webinar recording where we really dive deep on all the different marketing strategies. But ideally, at least 10 different ways. Networking is number one. Before you throw, $8,000 a month at SEO and pay-per-click and all that, which is good if it's tested, make sure that you're networking. That's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. Use direct response marketing. There's an example: great image, question, niche statement, call to action. And the same applies for trailers, flyers. Video is the number one medium, guys. The number one medium. And I'm going to send you guys an example. There'll be a link, or if you want examples of quality, I'm talking about world-class videos that you can create for yourself and your jobs. Just send me an email, info@builderscoach.com.au, and I'll send that across to you. Direct response flyers now as well. Doing decks, little filler jobs, good margin, good cash flow, quick turnaround. I want to move on to the difficult conversations that most guys don't have, but you need to have up front. Not only so with your clients, it's really, really important that in this industry where there is no or little trust, that you build credibility and trust as quickly as possible. And one of the best ways to do that, guys, is to talk about what's going to happen on the job, what you need from them, as in selections getting, and have a process. Again, have a selections process if you don't have one to make that easy. Talk about if what their selections are made and they want to make a change, that's okay. There's a variation process. Talk about access to site, payments on time, handover, defects. Most of you are cringing right now. You're thinking, why would I want to talk about that up front? I'm talking, when I say up front, contract signing. You want to do that because those things are going to come up. And if you talk about them up front, your clients will respect and appreciate it, and they'll understand when it comes up, as opposed to getting into a difficult situation. So this is one of the most powerful things you can do. It's what we call a client commencement agreement, where you have those conversations up front. So I want to wrap it up shortly, but I want to talk about job scheduling tools. But most guys don't realize, if you're using something like Buildxact, for example, a lot of our guys use Buildxact for job scheduling. They use the client communication portal as well as a way to communicate with their clients. The client communication, guys, because again, it's so bad in this industry, is marketing. That is marketing. Why? A lot of you get referrals, right? Referrals are your best quality inquiries. You don't want to stop doing that. You don't want to only do that though. You want to have other marketing strategies, but you want to use your ability to communicate well and proactively during the job as a means to get your clients to share more. And if you've got to share their experience with their friends and family, which they will, they'll do it at barbecues and at the kids' cricket on the weekend or footy. All right. So you want to do that and leverage your communication. It's going to save you a whole lot of time. Have a handover pack, have a well thought out handover pack. Some guys have a maintenance program as well built in. especially for luxury homes where, hey, for $800 a year, we'll have a maintenance guy come out, does a quick check. If anything needs replacing or tweaked, we'll do it. And outsource it. I know that maintenance can be a headache for a lot of you guys. 100% outsource that, but create a system and a process for doing that. Pre-construction checklist. Here's an example. One of our guys, the Gantt chart, right? Is up 36 different steps. In the pre-construction process, which this guy's outsourced to someone in his office, and they go through the entire thing. All right, taking it off his hands. That's freed him up a whole lot of time. It fast tracks. No piece of paper gets stuck on someone's desk. Ideally, they're using their own dream team. All right, so they're using their documentation, not someone else's, and it's moving forward. And then your team, guys, really, your team is going to be a reflection of your leadership. So again, you get the people you deserve, and your business is not going to outperform. But within team, the 80-20 rule applies with clearly defined roles and responsibilities. And then within the list of roles and responsibilities, everyone needs KPIs. So there'll be 5 tasks, essentially, that everyone does that you'd consider dollar productive. And those specific tasks are what you'd use to focus on training and systems development. Your trades, use trade packs, 30-day terms, and then set the standard for the work and the quality that you want from them. We're going to get back to Julian in a sec, but guys, big question. What are you doing to make money? What are you doing to increase your profits? You should have 5 ways that you have 5 strategies for increasing the profit in your business. If you don't, that's fascinating. They did that research on the bankruptcies. Most builders did not have a strategy. When I say most, 80-something% do not have a strategy for making a profit, and their business is all about, you're either making a profit or you're not. Here's a big one, guys. Don't ask yourself how. You maybe got some questions now, but how do I get that marketing? How do I get the right website? Don't ask who, not how. Who can help me with this, not how. There's people that have already done what you want to do. Success leaves clues. And if you guys are going to go big, we've got some guys going international with their business, or national. If you want a franchise, appoint a board. Get a board, give away 3% founders equity to industry specialists. If you want to build your own national franchise, find ex-GJ Gardner. Give the guy 6%, no financial liability, set up a board. I spoke to someone this week, a female builder, who listened to me say this on a webinar, and she's already started setting up her board, and she hasn't got a building license yet. Okay, guys, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Go to the people out there who've already done what you want to do, and have a plan, always. 90-day plan's best for your business development. Give yourself a deadline. So the big question is, what's your game plan now? Do you have one? And who or what is holding you accountable? You need direction and guidance, and you need accountability. And you don't need more time. And maybe a lot of you think, oh, I don't have time. You don't need time. What you need is a deadline. As Duke Ellington famously said. Guys, last message. My parting note for you guys is take action. And it's not about your plan. It's not about your mission statement or anything else. It's about taking action. So hopefully you've got one thing from this presentation that you can act on today. Please make sure that you do that. Thanks again for your time and attention. I'm going to hand you back over to Julian, and also happy to answer any questions after Julian's had a chat.
Cool, thanks, Kurt. I'll just get you to stop sharing there, mate, and then I'll pop my screen up.
No worries.
There we go. Just hopefully you guys can all see that PowerPoint now. Yeah, it should be up now. So yeah, as Kurt was saying, there was some really key messages there. With all the questions, just pop them in the chat. We'll come to them at the very end. But something I want to touch on, I'm going to take you through a couple of quick slides here, and then I'll spend a bit more time going through Buildxact. So just really going to be sort of showing how Buildxact can help, and some of the things that Kurt was talking about there. So big thing, look internal into your business. A lot of people focus on trying to win more work and trying to get more clients on board by dropping their prices. And a lot of the time, the things that they can actually control and focus on are things that are inside your business, as Kurt's been talking about there. So I'm going to really focus on 3 of these things. So communication, job costing, and accuracy. So they're specifically things that Buildxact can help you with. So communication, that's anything there in terms of your client communication, subbies, suppliers. So we're going to go through a few areas inside Buildxact. Job costing, can't stress how important that is, knowing where you're up to in terms of your estimated cost versus what you're actually spending on the job. If you're estimating the cost of a subby, how many hours that's going to take, being able to keep on track of that during the job, not just going back at the very end and then looking back at the whole job and trying to work out where we went over or under our budget, and then the accuracy side. So as you're doing your jobs, the cost that you see during those jobs at the end should determine how you move forward to make more accurate quotes. Because at the end of the day, when you do an estimate and you complete the job, if it does go wrong, you don't want to make that same mistake again, and you want to make sure that margin that you're projecting is actually going to what you end up with at the very end. So I'll quickly just open up a Buildxact screen here for you guys. So as you can see here, just a quick snapshot. Obviously, this is my demo account, so you'll see the same address a couple of times in there, but we've got a very easy snapshot of where we're at on our jobs at any point in time. So I'm just going to go into this one just here for you guys. And when it comes to the communication side of things, as Kurt mentioned about referrals and word of mouth through barbecues, all that kind of stuff, a lot of the time we speak to builders, they don't generally have that side of the communication with their clients perfected yet. So a lot of the times it's coming back at the end of the day and shooting out emails late at night and trying to update people. Now, if I had a system where I can be out on site, I can take a photo of a job, or I can do a quick variation on my phone, and I can send that out to a client directly rather than going back into my email, opening that up and then sending them out or calling the client on the phone, that would make that whole process a lot more streamlined. And obviously, if I'm at work and I'm a client, the last thing I want to be is trying to get on the phone to a builder trying to organize everything. So for that, we've got the customer portal. So as you can see here, it's branded in the little colors that I've done for my business. And it basically just sends you any updates that you'd like to go out to your client. So you can see there I've got photos, I've got a variation that's come through, and you can write messages back. So the communication side takes it all out of your hands, especially if you're busy. Probably the last thing you want to be doing is being on the phone every 2 seconds answering calls and speaking to a client. And if the client's calling you and you're having to pick up the phone all the time, it's probably noisy. If you haven't got an admin team that handles those calls, most of you guys probably won't have a full admin team there. So all of this stuff just really helps that communication side. And if you make that streamlined for your clients, what's going to happen is, as Kurt said, it's basically free marketing. They're going to speak to people, they're going to talk and mention things. I've got a friend who's actually, I mentioned her on the previous webinar. She's already built a house in the past. She's selling that, and now she's building a new one. The first builder had a lot of this information coming into a customer portal, so it just made it very easy for her. Any point in time she could hop on. I think sometimes people forget a new home is a really big thing for a lot of people, and having access to this information really easily, being able to look at it any time you want and go through the photos, it's a really nice feeling. So all that stuff is going to help, and things like variations, quotes, photos, any invoices, they're all going to store in here. So all your messaging, everything's going to happen. So I'll hop back into the main section of Buildxact now. So the way Buildxact works, we've already gone through the estimating side, which if you didn't see it previous webinar, you can see that on the YouTube page. This one will be recorded as well. It'll go on Buildxact's YouTube page, so you can feel free to hop back in and check over this. We do generally recommend you do get a trial or a one-on-one demo of the software. Generally, the demos are really good because you can work on it directly in your business and how that affects you and how Buildxact can be sort of work directly for you, because everyone's slightly different in the way they do things, especially when it comes to the costing side. But if you are after a one-on-one demo, there'll be a link at the end. Yeah, please reach out. So this is the first little details page of the job. Now this will come through directly from the estimate, and you can see the client that I've linked it up to for the customer portal. Any documents you store are all going to be down in here, and you've got Google Maps at the top. Now Kurt mentioned the schedule at the start, so really important. I've got a really basic schedule here that I've loaded in. Now, the good thing about Buildxact is you can actually preset the schedule out, and you can save it as a template, and anytime you do it, you can go in and you can use that, that schedule, slightly change it based on the size of the job and the type of work you're doing, but ultimately it's going to take that pain out of it. Now, the benefit of doing your schedules inside something like Buildxact is just how easy it is. When you've got this set out, you can literally just drag and drop this slider, and when you adjust that, I'm not sure if any of you noticed, but that progress is adjusting there based on how far that is. Now, if I click into it, you can see it's 48%. We've got a subby assigned to it. We've got a reminder that goes out 2 weeks before that says see site supervisor on arrival. Now, this can all be set out in advance, and at the time you can just go in and actually assign them to the subby or supplier that you want that to go to, or you can predetermine that so it's already set for you. Now, there's an email that goes off, or you can send it via SMS if you want to. People often use these as reminders to themselves as well. So it might say reminder to order X product or X material, whatever it is, and they'll shoot that to their own phone to set reminders. Now you can do multiple reminders for individual tasks, and the idea being is that once you set it up once and you fine tuning it, you don't have to keep on going in every single time and manually creating this. Now, obviously this is much better than using something like Excel. I've watched a couple of videos in terms of how people are managing it with Excel. Lack of critical path, you know, if you're pushing this out, it doesn't move. So this is just really, really simple, really easy. We give you the training and everything to go through this at Buildxact. It's free. So if you're seeing this and it looks a bit complicated, don't worry, it's very simple. And then as you're moving these tasks, it just goes green, and then you can see the overall progress is changing. Now, coming back to that communication side, keeping your subbies and suppliers and even your employees and yourself up to date is really, really important. It means you're not running back at the end of the day and when you're trying to relax and trying to do this at the end of the night. You're keeping people up to date at any point in time, and that should hopefully minimize the amount of delays you're having. Because if you can manage something while you're on site, on the job, rather than coming back 4, 5, 6 hours later on and doing it all in one go, you're going to save time and keep people up to date that way. So that's the tiny bit about the schedules. Now, at any point in time, you can go in and just print this whole task list out, and it'll look something like that. And you can actually send that to individual people if you want to, or just keep it as a daily checklist for yourself. So we'll go into the costing side of things, and we'll just open up the brickwork one here. So this is one that I've done earlier on, just like a good little TV chef. So we can see for the brick wall now, when you go through a job, you're never going to have everything sitting at 100%. That's never ever going to be the case. There's always going to be certain things that are going to go slightly over or slightly under. What we do find though is that people just don't track the jobs right down to the detail. Now people might know, okay, I went 5% over what the estimated cost of the brick wall was going to be, or the slab, or the framing, or whatever it's going to be, but generally they don't go into really, really fine detail. Now, the benefit of going into fine detail is that you can track everything from material costs, the labor, all the way through that part of the job. Now, as you can see here, for the labor, I've gone 9% over, and then for the sand, cement, and the ties, I've sort of roughly about the 100% mark. The ties were so cheap there. So at the moment, I've spent 50% of the total estimated cost of the brickwork for that wall. Now, if I want to show you how to do this and how you can track that, all I do is click on this here. So I'm going to order the Whitsunday bricks. We'll go order one item. I'll put in Austral bricks at the top there. Just put front wall. Now I can fill all this out if I wanted to, but I'll just skip this side here. And what you do is you just save and send that to whoever that was going out to. Now I'm not going to go through the whole process of opening the email. I'm just going to say that it's been sent, and we can go save and close. And if we click into this here, you can actually see that purchase order is being raised. Now, once that subby's come out, or we've had the supplies delivered and the job's done, we can go in straight away and make this received. And this will ask us to enter an invoice number. So we pop the invoice number in, and we say what we actually paid for it. So I've worked this out as a per brick price, but you don't need to do it that way. You can do it as a 1,000 lot or whatever. But just to keep it nice and simple, I can mark this as received and hit save and close. Now you can see here I've gone 2% over the cost of what I estimated the bricks were going to cost. So what that's done, this whole thing here is put us 5% over budget for brickwork. Now, really, really important, because what that's going to do as you go forward is it's going to enable you to be more accurate in your estimates, for future estimates. If I know every single time I'm going 5% over brickwork, that helps me. But knowing that I went 9% over the labor is more important because that's a bigger number. Because the 2% here is, give or take $45. But as you start getting more and more and you're not estimating your labor correctly, that's where things will start to add up. Now, it's super, super important to do that. Keep track of where you're going, because any estimate that you do, that's obviously got a margin built into it, which is going to affect your cash flow and your profit at the end of a job. If you're not managing that correctly, that's going to eat into your margin, eat into your profit. So you really want to be knowing where that is and staying on top of that as you're going through it. As Kurt mentioned, and it's the reason not just builders and trades fail, the reason most businesses fail, cash flow problems. So the job might be profitable, but you might be spending too much in one go at any point in time before the money's coming in. So it's really important that you are keeping track of that and your estimates are as accurate as possible as you're going through. So some other things we can do in Buildxact. So hopefully that makes sense there for you guys. Haven't gone too much into detail there, but graphically you can see very easily. You can pull a report out that shows you a full breakdown as well. We're going to do a simple variation as well. So I've got some downlights. I'm going to show you how to quickly do that. So I'm going to change these downlights. Go variation for one item. And if any of you guys have used Philips Hue, that's what I'm putting in here. So they're those downlights and lights that you can change in your phone app and have it come on at certain times and things like that. So I've got these downlights here that I'm getting rid of. Now, if you've got this pricing in your price list, it will obviously show up. I'm just going to manually type it in. We're going to say that I'm still using 18 of these downlights because I'm not changing the quantity. I'm just changing the actual product. And let's just say they're $60 each. And we're still going to put it under electrical. Put that down here. There we go. Sorry, it's popped out on my screen there. I can say that I've sent that. Again, I'm not going to do the whole process of sending the emails. I'm just going to show you that you can see that. So variation has been sent. Now, at this point in time, you can actually send this over to the customer portal, as you saw that I did that earlier on with the variation. So you see that new item variation there. Ultimately, once the client has actually sent back their acceptance, you can mark it down as accepted and hit save and close. And we can see now, if I go into the variation there, we should be able to see, there we go, the extra. There we go. So you got the Philips Hue downlight variation in there. And when it comes to actually sending your invoice out, it's nice and easy at the very end here. These are just the default ones that I've got, but you can obviously change them in terms of how you want that to look. But ultimately, what Buildxact does is an end-to-end system. So we cover off, as I said, the first webinar had the estimating side of things. But we cover that first conversation, managing the lead, all the way through the estimating process, running your jobs, pushing your schedules out, notifying your subbies, purchase orders, keeping track of your costs. And you can see at the top here, as we start to complete these invoices, we'll see our gross profit changing. So again, I'm not going to go through the whole process of sending the invoice out, but you can tick the variations here. So I had a tiling upgrade as well. When I mark this as received, you can see that we start to push up the profit. Now, with Buildxact, it does sync into your accounting software. So if any of you guys are using Xero or QuickBooks or MYOB, all that stuff's going to feed across. There is a sync for that. But yeah, ultimately, end-to-end system. There's a ton of stuff I haven't shown you, but that's just kind of giving you a really simple overview in terms of how the software works and how it calculates things. The one that I always talk about, I used to work with accountants when I was at MYOB, really need to be knowing your costings and where this is going. And it's not just good enough just to know where the job is at overall, or going back at the job and looking back and saying, okay, well, you know, the job went over 5%. That doesn't really help you for anything in the future. You need to know exactly where it's gone over. And if you can, even better, you can go in and whack notes into here at any point. So you can see the little notes section here. If I want to go back in and actually edit this, I could put the note in. So that when you go back, if you've forgotten for whatever reason, go back in, pull the notes out. Why did it go over? Fine tune your rates that you're getting from subbies or suppliers, so that your estimates are more accurate in the future. So that's sort of it from a Buildxact perspective in terms of what I wanted to show you guys. I'll just open up the PowerPoint here in terms, so you can see all our contact details. And I'll just bring Kurt back in as well now, and we can just go through some of the questions that you guys had. I saw a few of them coming forward. I didn't jump in while we were going through because I sort of wanted to keep that that session to the end. But I'll just bring Kurt back in now. Yeah, he's got his camera on. Awesome. Yeah, so let's open the chat. So we had a few. There we go.
Yeah, there were a couple specific questions for you there, Julian.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Let's go to the top. There was a few. So there was someone you were talking there, Kurt. So
yeah.
Got one from Ramiz here, or Ramez. I'm not sure if I'm getting the pronunciation right there, mate. But we've got Kurt. When and as if registered valuation comes in below the price of the package you've presented to a client for them to secure their finance, how do you get around this? The banks here in NZ will not mortgage over registered valuation.
Okay, so sorry, can I just get that up here? Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
When and as if registered valuation comes in. Mate, I have to admit that is outside of my sphere of expertise. So that one of the last slides I put up, ask who, not how. get a really good broker. Again, world of mediocrity, find a broker who's a gun. Unfortunately, I don't know anyone in your area, Ramiz, but I do have one here who would be able to answer that quick smart. So try to find who is the best broker that you could find in your area. That's the question I'd be getting answered. If anyone on the call knows, if you could let Ramiz know. I believe he's in Christchurch. That'll be great. Any other Kiwis on the call?
Cool. We've got one from Rian here. Can you please repeat those saving platforms you use, Kurt?
Yes, I did type them in. So Raiz, R-A-I-Z, Spaceship, which is actually a Kiwi product. These are all apps, by the way. You can download them off the App Store. Then ComSec Pocket, that's a CBA app. That's brilliant. Very well put together. And the other one's Bamboo, which is the crypto. Just have a bit of fun with that, put a little bit of money in, and obviously the Bitcoin halving's approaching, so it's quite interesting to see how that all unfolds. They're just a bit of fun. These aren't, again, I'm not a financial advisor. These aren't major financial strategies. It's good to have buffers of money, lots of different pots building up so that you can absorb any hit, which will eventually come, as we all know, it eventually comes, right?
We've got one from Leo here. This one's to me about a tradie portal to upload invoices and purchase orders. So we haven't got that just yet. What we do have from a tradie supplier subby point of view is the ability to do a request for quote. So when you are doing a quoting process, you actually send that information out to them and they can quote on that digitally. That feeds back into Buildxact. We will get there eventually with the subbies and suppliers. It is something that I've heard the guys are looking to work on at some point. But at the moment, it's just for the clients at this point in time.
The question here from Jason. Jason, hi Kurt, how do you get clients to pay for a quotation? That's a great question. So Jason, I've got that sales process I mentioned in my presentation that I'm happy to share that with you. That if you follow that system to the letter, people will pay you for a quote. You don't have to do anything. And there's scripts in there, there's documents in there, there's PDF documents that educate them. So if you just email sales process to info@builderscoach.com.au, I'll send that across to you. But in a nutshell, what we do is we help people understand that the vast majority of free quotes are not accurate. Not all of them are not accurate, but the majority. Again, REA, realestate.com, they get 5.5 million visitors a month. There's an article that states 80% are not accurate. And there's plenty of examples of architects doing, people paying architects, getting the design work done, and then later finding out they can't afford to pay for the project. They're not proceeding. So your quote fee, and you don't call it a quote fee or you charge for quotes, it's a cost analysis or feasibility that you charge a nominal fee to get accuracy on the number. Some of our builders use the best estimators in the country. They let their clients know. We've got these people that pretty much like a QS. You're going to get, you don't have to show them the breakdown, but they get a very detailed breakdown, and they can back their quote, a fixed price quote, within 95%, provided there's no variations. So hopefully that helps.
So we're on Cameron about the mobile app for Buildxact. I'm not sure on that one, Cameron. Obviously, if you use Chrome on your phone, that will work. That will work fine. So it's classed as like a web app. It is optimized for the phone, so it's not like the full page or anything. So it does work perfectly fine. But not sure exactly when that's going to come. It will happen eventually. Yeah, it's just not something that will be here anytime soon at this point. Toby, regarding the client portal from the phone. So the client portal is client focused. So that's not something you as a builder have access to yourself. That's something that when you invite your client into the client portal, that's their portal. That's where they see any communication from your side. So when you're going through Buildxact, you can have documents and photos and variations and things that you can actually just share directly to the client portal. Now, the client will get that. You don't once you've shared it, that's the client on their side now. So yeah, you don't have control of that initially after that sharing point.
Yeah.
So one from Nick here is probably for you, Kurt. So do you put a contingency amount when estimating, or can you build it into your formula? Well, I suppose that's probably could be for both of us. I'll let you go first on that one.
So do you put a contingency in place for estimating?
Yeah.
The guys that, again, so the exact process for estimating would be outside of my sphere of expertise. We've got two of the best estimators in the country that I refer to. It's taken us time and effort to find them. I know they do put allowances in. It depends on, you know, the type of job and whatever it is, but they also put things in, like I know David puts in 0.5% for defects, things like that. But it's crucial that you find someone that understands exactly what the numbers need to be and are, you know, sticklers for being very accurate.
Yeah, on that one, Nick, as well. When I go through a full demo of Buildxact, when I show how the markup and everything works inside the software, I actually do have a section in the job overall that accounts for contingency. Obviously, that's up to you as an individual and whether you want to do it, but yeah, you can do that in our software as well. Jason, how do you get clients to pay for a quotation? I think you already covered that, did you, mate?
Oh, I did cover that, yeah. So that's
that one always comes up.
Yeah, I know that. If you don't know how to do it, it's it obviously it sounds like you know, you're doing a 180.
Yeah. So Nathan and Peter there. So sometimes we pick up something little from a supplier. Should you have a purchase for everything? You don't need to. So Buildxact sort of tracks it as a purchase order, but you can just go straight in and just say, I've spent X at, you know, Bunnings or Gelson's or wherever you are, and you can just put this put it straight as received. So it goes through that whole process. If you go somewhere and pick up something small, you're not going to raise a purchase order, send that out after you've already paid for it. So you can just skip that whole process, and you might just have a sort of miscellaneous category that you have those things that you're buying and spending money all the time, that you track that to that category. So that's perfectly fine.
Ramiz, if Rebecca could send the article that she wrote, Best Time to Build, which is the beating the bottleneck, to helping people understand the importance of getting at least their preliminaries done now, if not building now. Guys, just on that, I'd recommend you go and spend some time, if not get someone in your office to spend time looking for articles like that. There's some great articles that have been written, and you can share those articles from wherever they are, from a different source. But Rebecca's article is in our closed Facebook group, which is Builders Unite. If you go to Facebook and type in Builders Unite, it's a closed Facebook group for builders only. You guys are welcome to join. Just request to join. I'll allow you to jump into that group. Just type in that you heard about the group through this webinar, and I'll let you join, and you'll see there's plenty of other information in there, including how to charge for quotes. One of the things that helps guys get their head around charging for quotes, because it is very counterintuitive, is hearing other builders talk about having done it and also how they do it. So we set that group up, Builders Unite, for three things in mind. One, to get every builder to charge for quotes. Two, for you guys to charge what you're worth, that 20% margin. And then three, for you to collaborate with architects early on. Because a lot of people, again, suffering unnecessarily. People out there are going to architects first, which is very logical. You want to build, get a design done first, go to an architect or designer. But the designer and architect, in their defense, don't understand costing, so they don't get the costings right. And then by the time they come to you, the builder, it's too late. Often they were told 700 grand, turns out it's 1.5 or 2 mil. And then they can't proceed, but the architect will not refund their money, right? We all know that. So people need to be made aware.
Question here from Leo. It seems to me there's a couple from you, Leo, here. So I'll do the first one and then come to the other ones after. So is there a way for trades to reply to emails being sent to them via the system? So Leo, if you've got any of your trades or your suppliers all set up in Buildxact and you've got your email sync connected, anything that anything that they send you back via email will come back into the system. So it keeps it nice and simple. As I said, the communication is a really important part. I can imagine, and it happens to me, where I'm trying to find emails from, if Kurt sends me an email, I'm trying to go through and look at previous conversations we've had. I'll type his email in, I'll try and find the previous ones. Not the best system to use. Obviously, if you're trying to reach out to tons of suppliers, subbies, get quotes, and look back at, if the client takes a month or so to confirm that estimate or that quote, you just have a ton of data trying to search through everything. Keeping it all in one place like Buildxact is really helpful for that. So Leo's also got here as well, is there a good accurate costing database or system which actually would be accepted by trades when a job is active 6 months down the line, where we can confidently price the jobs that we would not be beaten by competition, assuming we're both at 20% margin? So I think what you're asking there, Leo, if I'm reading that correctly, is there anything right now that you can open up and it has accurate pricing that that trades will accept? I think that's kind of what I'm getting from that. I'm not sure if Kurt, that might be something you want to touch on, if you've seen anything like that that has fully accurate pricing. I guess it's hard because there's always I've seen a few of them before where they put a massive buffer on the pricing. So what you're seeing is actually Cordell. there's a buffer on the pricing. So when you go into it, although the pricing and everything is there, there's a decent buffer on that to make sure that you're not underquoting, which sometimes not the best way of doing the estimate. But get you to add to that, Kurt.
Yeah, I think so. Are you talking about something like a costing database like Cordell's? I know a lot of guys use Cordell's, and yes, it's tough. My recommendation is always find a quality estimator. Now, I know it's dangerous because if you find the wrong estimator, a guy that's not, the one mistake's going to cost you a lot of money. But an estimator like the guys that we use, they costing for a lot of builders, so they are all over the numbers. So they're very aware of what the numbers are, and because of that, they're very accurate. So the accuracy of the costing is born out of them being specialists, like cardiologists that are exceptionally good at what they do. So again, I don't want to keep giving you guys the same response, but it's ask who, not how. So you're asking how do we get it? I'd find someone that's already figured that out. Take the time and effort to find someone.
Yeah, and Leo, if you're using our system to do it, obviously you fine tune that over a period of time and make that estimate work for you and your business and the types of jobs that you're doing.
Yeah, and some of our guys employ in-house estimators. You don't have to outsource the estimating. You could have an employee in your office, but they become very good at shopping everything out. And procurement's a big thing as well. Get different pricing. But one of the downfalls in this industry, just talking about costing and pricing, and this is an interesting story, guys. I heard this yesterday, right? Is that the trades tend to have each other's backs. Like one of the biggest problems in the building industry is the race to the bottom. So you guys will race each other to the bottom on margin. Like you'll drop your pants for work out of desperation, which doesn't benefit anyone. Your trades generally do not do that. Your plumbers and electricians don't drop each other's prices and race to the bottom. One of our guys up in Queensland had, apparently there's an app, I forget what it's called, but it's an app where contractors jump on and then bid for work for builders. And there was a concreter who was bidding to get on a job for one of my builders, and it was a fairly big job. And the guy he did drop his price because he wanted to win it. It was 140 grand or something for the concrete, and he dropped it down to 138 and then 136. What the concreter didn't realize was that he was the only guy bidding, and he was already on the short list. He was going to get the job. My builder was going to give it to him. And what it made my builder realize is that this guy had room to move, and he saved himself thousands, which goes straight to his bottom line. So going back to how do you increase your profitability? Well, the 5 ways, procurement, shopping around, getting guys to sharpen their pencil. Now's a good time to do that as well. Not with everyone, not all the suppliers, but obviously your trades. So
I think, Leo, you've got another question here about can Buildxact get pricing from purchase order being released on their system? So if I'm reading that correctly there, Leo, I think you're saying that if a purchase order has been received and you've calculated what that cost is, can you put that straight into the pricing? There's no direct link from it, but you can go back in and edit your pricing very easy. So
yeah, and Leo's got a couple of questions there. I'm going to try to find that app, guys. If you give me a sec. But yeah, he's saying yes, Cordell's, and also what else is there? Rawlinson as well.
Yeah, like I said, I've seen a few of those where they've got pricing in there. But obviously obviously there's areas in different places that you can use pricing. We work with a few partners where they actually look after the pricing and they feed the pricing into Buildxact. So that could be something you look at as well. If you want to look at one of those, reach out to me and I can sort of help you with that. But they sort of do the work in terms of organizing that pricing through a variety of different sources. And when you log into Buildxact, if you're a member with them, you'd actually see all the pricing in there from a ton of different suppliers. So that could be an option. And they normally agree the prices for a set time period, and then they take care of it. They update all the prices and everything. So that could be one way you look at it. The website for the concreter bids, Leo's asking there, Kurt.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that now, actually, while we're talking. I'll find it for you, hopefully before the call wraps up. Yeah,
well, oh, sorry, there you go, Kurt.
No, go for it, yeah.
I was going to say, while Kurt's doing that, guys, just to sort of reiterate there. So with Buildxact, you do get the training side of it. So don't stress too much if you're sitting there and you're currently doing a giant paper plan, and you're sitting there with Excel and you're managing your schedules with Excel and you're doing all that stuff manually. It's very, very easy. I still haven't had full training on the software. I just watched the videos, figured it out myself, and asked questions when I needed to. Aussie business, that's obviously a benefit. You know, it's not an American business that's working in Australia. So yeah, and it's a month-to-month subscription, or you can go annual, but ultimately there's no big software installation, there's no giant lock-in contracts, no big upfront fees or anything like that. So what most people I recommend, start on a monthly subscription, get the training, see how it's going in your business. If you're comfortable and confident, move to an annual, because you do get a bit of a discount on there as well.
Just on, have you got anything else there, Julian? I'm still looking for this thing, but
I was going to say, Nick's just popped in here. Prices wouldn't be the same in each state, and yeah, that's the difficulty. You know, even in the state, the rates can change. You know, metro versus regional. So it's very hard for one sort of system or package to get it very accurate, and that's why from the feedback I've had, again, I don't know the specifics of this, but the feedback I've had from a few different builders now, I've just said a lot of these guys, they put a fair buffer on their prices to make sure that they're not underquoting for a builder.
Yeah, the estimators we use, they will price nationally, or you know, in Australia mainly Eastern Seaboard, but they'll go, you know, they across different states, so they're all over it. So they're very, very good at the pricing. Someone mentioned something about managing energy, and then work-life balance. So I just want to point out that all the work that I do, and in getting yourself set up with the right structures and processes for your business is about raising standards. And everyone has different standards. A lot of it comes from our upbringing, or again, just the decision that you make. You know, like sport's a good analogy. There's good sporting analogies in business or parallels. So you could play, you know, social footy, you could play for your local footy team, you could play for your state, you could play for the country, you could go to the World Cup. And it's the same with the Olympians. You know, a lot of people to go to the Olympics is massive, but then of all the guys that go to the Olympics, how many win medals, and then how many win gold, and then how many are like a Michael Phelps. So you've got to decide where your standards are. But the point I want to make is, when it comes to work-life balance, if you've got very high standards, and you know, if you look at the Olympic athlete example, none of those guys have work-life balance. There's no real balance. You're going to have to, if you want to push harder, you want to be number one, you want to dominate your space. Yes, you need to manage your energy. You don't do stupid things, but there's not going to be a lot of balance. You're going to have to work harder than everyone else. And that's why it's so important to find something that you're passionate about. Find something that you actually want to, where you feel you are using your unique abilities and talents, and you're making a contribution, because that's going to fuel you. And you know, you've done that when you wake up, you forget to eat and sleep, and you feel like you got a B12 motor in your chest on a Monday morning, you spring out of bed, and then, you know, life's a beautiful thing if you can do that. So I'd encourage you to try and find that thing, and then just be clear on what you want, where you want to go, and what standards you want to set, and then don't compromise.
Yeah, and just to add to that, with what Kurt's saying, obviously, I think probably a lot of people are in this position where they feel like they're working really hard, and they feel like they're putting all these hours in, and then there's not real whole change. Now, it's not just working hard, like, you've got to work smart in that as well. So when you find something you're really passionate about, as Kurt said, focus on that, but also think about things. What am I currently doing, and how could I make that easier on myself? Do I really need to be sitting here for 5 hours at the end of the night doing things all manually, or can I find some sort of system? And that could be a Buildxact from a software perspective. It could be other types of systems that you use external to this as well, to manage your own time. Work smarter as well as harder. You know, you don't need to just run yourself into the ground doing everything manually. There are systems and tools out there that can help you and can speed you up, make you more efficient in what you're doing.
Absolutely, definitely work smarter, not harder. And yeah, there's plenty of great solutions out there. You just got to get stuck in. You know, and you can create a lifestyle business and enjoy more time off and surf trips and holidays with the family and all that. It's really the opportunities there to do any of that. You just need to decide and then step up. And in most cases, you know, get out of your own way. But I can tell you now, it's easier for all of you guys to work hard on yourselves, which you have to do. You know, Jim Rohn, famously said, work harder on yourself than you do in your business, because your business won't exceed your leadership, but also working on your business. It is easier to do that. And it's easier to go national or international and build a huge empire than it is to do nothing. Right? It is easier. It sounds bizarre, but the upper end of human potential is undiscovered. And there's research to show, there's psychology research to show that if you live beneath your potential, you'll be very, very unhappy. Your brain will torture you. So we are designed to conquer, to keep getting out of our comfort zone, to do things, to expand and grow and make more of a contribution. And that's what makes us happy and feel that level of fulfillment that everyone strives for. So make a decision today, guys. You know, regardless of who you work with or who you get guidance from, make sure you get guidance from the right place. That's a big, important thing. Get guidance from the right people, but get some form of accountability and make a decision to head on a trajectory that's going to take you towards a bigger and brighter future. I mean, if you're in business, you already are a positive person. You have to be optimistic and positive to be an entrepreneur and be in business. But yeah, my recommendation is go big, have a crack. It's good fun.
Scott's has got one here about so Xero actually reconciling the costs and feeding it back into Buildxact. I think we will get there. That is something that I think we will be working on. Obviously, can't give you a date on that, and if anyone's worked with software before, you know it's very hard to sort of predict anything can come up when they're doing development work. But my understanding that will be coming at some point. But again, dates hard to say at this point in time. Cool. I think, guys, that there's sort of questions have started to slow down now. There's nothing too much coming in there at the moment, so we might cut it there. Now, if anyone is listening and that you do want to go back in, as I've said a few times, it will be on YouTube on the Buildxact page, and we'll be sending details on that as well. But yeah, you can reach out to myself or Kurt through the emails there. Obviously, you want to book in for a demo, Buildxact for a trial, feel free to do that on the website as well. But yeah, I think that's probably it for now. I'm not sure if you have any last words there, Kurt.
No, sorry guys, couldn't find that app, but I will find it and send it across to you guys. Thank you again, Julian, for hosting this webinar. It's been an absolute privilege. So. Thanks.
And yeah, thanks Kurt as well. Like, there's a lot of knowledge that you pass on, and I'm learning as well as everyone else when you talk through some of those things. So really appreciate it. Cool. Yeah, that seems like it's all. Yeah, again, thanks guys. Really appreciate you taking your time out. I know we've slightly run over again. We always get more questions than we anticipate, which is great. But yeah, really appreciate you taking your time out of your day, and yeah, hopefully have a good weekend, and happy Mother's Day to any of the mothers out there. Obviously stay in isolation. For the ones in Victoria, we're not out of that just yet. But yeah, hope you have a good weekend, and yeah, we're running more of these over the future. So appreciate you coming along.
Enjoy, guys. Take care.
Guys, see you later.
Cheers, bye.